This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. You know, this video was one that I thought would be a lot easier to make, and then all these things would pop up into my mind given the current temperament of how people talk about the Browns this year. But quite frankly, when you're looking for true disappointments this year, it's been difficult to find it, right? If we're just talking about a true blue disappointment, like there's things that have been disappointing, like injuries and things out of your control. But as far as disappointments go, you're talking about guys who have played a lot, given a lot of opportunity, haven't done a lot. There's not really a ton of that, partly because there's been so many injuries. And in doing this biggest surprise, biggest disappointment series, I've really found out how much we got to be thankful for this year. And I don't feel like it's been appreciated as much, or at least within the fan base, what this team's been able to achieve so far and what they've been able to salvage out of a pretty harsh season for them. But everything about this team is a surprise almost, right? They're 7-5. They've been able to win with multiple different quarterbacks. You can even look at Deshaun Watson's 4-1 record, 5-1 technically, but 4-1 record effectively as a quarterback as a bit of a surprise. But it's so many injuries that have gone in there. So making this disappointment list was a little bit more difficult than I anticipated. And it goes to show you that perception can be so far from reality, because the perception of the Cleveland Browns nationally and even in a lot of circles locally is that of a team that's been a disappointment. And the more you look at them, you're like, how can they be considered a disappointment? I feel like people are going out their way to try to consider this team a disappointment, but they're not. They've been a pretty surprising team so far, and injuries have really hurt them. And I think that's the most disappointing thing about the team. So let's talk about the disappointment so far this season, and break it down similar to what I did with the surprises and get into it. So one of the biggest disappointments I think has been for the Browns season, like a legitimate disappointment. These players have been in position to perform. They have not performed. Wide receiver 3. We thought we were going to get something out of Cedric Tillman. We thought we were going to get something out of Donovan Peoples-Jones. We thought we might get something out of David Bell. We've gotten not a damn thing from all three of them. All three of those wide receivers, I'm confident, are under 100 receiving yards for the year to this day. Not at all what was the expectation, right? If I go back to the beginning of the year, we thought Donovan Peoples-Jones could have close to 1,000 yards, if not 800 yards, because he improved every year. We thought that it was very possible for Cedric Tillman to get 600 yards. We thought it was possible for David Bell to get 500 yards, right? Like, we thought all of these things were within reach for wide receiver 3, and none of it's happened. We've seen very little promise out of wide receiver 3. Now, Elijah Moore narrowly escaped being on this list because he's actually stepped it up the last few weeks. He's at 500 receiving yards. He's well within range. He's played much better the last month and a half of the season. So he's avoided being on this list. I wouldn't say he's a disappointment. He hasn't exceeded expectations, but he's in the range of expectations. But wide receiver 3 has been a massive disappointment for this team. We thought we would get 400 yards or something out of our third wide receiver. We're not even close to 100. Whether it be Cedric Tillman, Donovan Peoples-Jones, who's not even on the team anymore, David Bell, it's been disappointing. I don't think all three of those wide receivers haven't even caught a touchdown pass. It's been very, very disappointing. Now, some of this can due to the injuries and the turnover in the passing game, but still, even with that, you would want more out of wide receiver 3 than what you're getting. And the fact that you're not getting more out of it is because you're just not getting good performances out of there, right? Cedric Tillman still looks lost. Donovan Peoples-Jones looked lost at times when he was out there. And David Bell doesn't ever look lost, but sometimes he just drops the ball inexplicably. So there's where we're at with wide receiver 3. It's been a pretty strong disappointment for this team. Zadarius Smith is the other one where I'm like, hey, this is a player who's just not performing well. And look, Zadarius isn't a disappointment in pressure rate and raw pressure numbers. He's been able to get pressure there, but he's also one of the highest in missed tackle percentage. And let me ask you a question. If somebody's getting a lot of pressure, getting behind the line of scrimmage a lot, but missing a lot of tackles, does it actually matter? It doesn't. It doesn't. If you're not a threat to tackle somebody, even when you get pressure, you might as well not be there. Hell, it's not good that you are there, right? Because when you miss a tackle and you're an edge rusher, you completely blow your leverage or your gap assignment, which means that they can run right around you and then boom. And the rounds go around all the time. So Zadarius just has not been an impactful player this year. I don't care what split you're looking at. It just hasn't happened. We have not seen Zadarius make the kind of impact that it looked like he was going to make in the preseason, that it looked like he was going to make in the beginning of the season. It just hasn't been there. Maybe he's playing injured. Maybe he's trying to play through some stuff. But the fact of the matter is we expected a certain level of performance from Zadarius Smith. We're not even getting close to that level of performance from Zadarius Smith. And I would say if we're talking about individual players versus expectation, he's probably been the one who's undersold his expectations the most. And that's sad to say because I had high hopes for Zadarius in this offense, defense, my bad. I had high hopes for Zadarius in this defense, but unfortunately, he's not been able to do that, not been able to live up to those high hopes. The next thing, and honestly, the most disappointing thing about this season is going to be the obvious thing that's been most disappointing about this season. Health. That you have had the worst injury luck I have seen a Browns team have in quite some time. Now, the only thing that's not disappointing about this health situation is the record that you've conjured in spite of it. You've beaten some great teams with all of these health issues going on in the background. And I do think that's something worth noting when we talk about the Browns next year. Lo and behold, people will forget that this team was able to beat the Ravens on the road. They were able to beat the 49ers. Like, there's a good chance that whoever wins the Super Bowl this year, the Browns will have a win over. And they might have that win over them with PJ Walker, right? Like, this is going to be a good team next year. We all know this because they're a good team this year and they've been through hell on the injury front. If we're just starting from the beginning of the season, they lost Jack Conklin about 3 quarters into the season. 2 quarters after that, you lose Nick Chubb for the rest of the season. Okay, cool. Then you play against Tennessee. You finish Tennessee. You feel great about Tennessee. Deshaun plays well. Oh, wait, he has a shoulder injury. He can't play versus Baltimore. Oh, wait, that shoulder injury is more serious than we thought. He's going to miss the bye week. He's going to miss the San Francisco game. He's going to miss most of the Indy game. He's going to miss about 4 weeks of football. Okay, whatever. Right. During that 4 weeks, I believe Jed didn't get hurt yet. I think we're still fine. We're still rolling. You got some minor injuries. Denzel Ward in and out the lineup. Greg Newsome in and out the lineup. But you know what? You're still holding on. You're still holding on, right? You don't got Nick Chubb. You don't got Deshaun Watson. You don't got Jack Conklin, but you still holding on, moving on because DeJuan Jones filling in, Jerome Ford doing what he needs to do. PJ Walker did enough to help the team win, or at least be on the team when they won. Okay, cool. We move forward. Deshaun comes back against Arizona. Blow him out. We start thinking, hey, look at the point differential in these games that Deshaun Watson plays for the Cleveland Browns. The Browns have a ridiculous point differential when Deshaun Watson plays. They are a much, much better team when Deshaun Watson's on the field, right? Like, this is a Browns team that beat the Bengals by 20 points, beat the Titans by like 20 points, beat the Arizona Cardinals by 20 points. It is more likely than not that the Browns blow somebody out when Deshaun Watson plays quarterback. He makes a big difference. So much of a difference that on the road, he helps bring you back 14 points in the fourth quarter and has a signature moment as the Browns quarterback. And it feels like, okay, we recovered all that momentum we lost when he got hurt after getting that momentum against Tennessee. Now we have that momentum again. We're ready to roll. We're going to go into Pittsburgh. We're going to play Pittsburgh at home. We're going to roll into this schedule and we're going to start getting it going, right? We right there. Boom, Deshaun Watson out for the season. On top of that, you don't just lose Deshaun Watson. Either that week or the week after, you lose Jed Wills for the season. You lose other guys. DeJuan Jones is now in and out of the lineup for a couple of weeks here. You have had more injuries than anybody to count, specifically concentrated on the offensive side of this ball. People can point to the offense and tell me that the offense has been disappointing this year. That is one of the most no shit Sherlock takes that I've ever heard in my life. Like, if you're mad that the offense is disappointed this year, I question if you're paying attention to what's happening with the team. That's no disrespect to anybody who's not satisfied with the offense, but please pay attention to what you're looking at, because there's no version of any team that loses the amount of starters that the Browns have lost this year that puts together a functionally good offense. There is only enough and nothing once you lose that many starters. The Browns are on their fourth starting quarterback of the year. All of these quarterback changes outside of going away from PJ Walker have been due to injury is another thing, right? You didn't go to Joe Flacco because DTR played terrible and you decided to put Joe Flacco in the game. No, you went to Joe Flacco because DTR is in concussion protocol. And not even mention pieces like Jakeem Grant that got hurt in the preseason, or like Marquise Goodwin, who's been in and out of the lineup all year, who was factored in to be a part of this team, a vertical stretch part of this team. I haven't even factored in Coop is in concussion protocol right now. Myles Garrett has been injured in this season. So much has happened, and it's almost all been concentrated on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, you had Ronnie McLeod out for the year, and then Denzel Ward's in and out with this shoulder injury, and that would be significant injuries for any other team but the Cleveland Browns. But the fact is, we got like 12 guys out. Okay, the Browns have less starters right now than they had coming. Well, the Browns have more starters on injured reserve, I believe, or on the injury report right now, than they have regular starters who are just healthy. And I think you only got Jed's on the injury report, my bad. You only have Joel, Ethan, Wyatt. Coop's on the injury report, Elijah Moore, David, and Njoku. Got 5 guys. 5 guys who are supposed to be starting this year that aren't on the injury report right now. The other 6 are either out for the year or banged up significantly. This is why I say we should be a lot more appreciative of where this team is, because no offense would be able, like, look at the disaster the New York Jets are right now offensively. They just lost Aaron Rodgers. They still got Garrett Wilson. They still have their offensive line. They still have Breece Hall. If the Browns only lost Deshaun Watson, we'd be fine. It'd be a little harder, but we'd be fine. That's what happened to the Jets offense. They lost 1 guy. No other team is surviving the amount of starters that this offense has lost and somehow cobbling together the record that they have. That's a credit to the defense, for sure, but it's also a credit to the coaching staff for being able to put together some kind of offensive effort. But the biggest disappointment of the year has been health. We always dread it. This year, it got us. It got us like it got both of the times it got Kyle Shanahan, where it took out almost all of their defensive starters and offensive starters. It got us, right? I think Kyle Shanahan won 5 games one of those years and like 6 the other. We're at 7. We're fortunate to be at 7. But the injuries have taken a toll on this team. And it's, if this team can overcome all of that, somehow get to 10 or 11 wins and maybe win a playoff game, that is a significant landmark in the history of the Cleveland Browns, because that would be the changing of the guard. That would be, okay, we've done something we've never done before and nobody would ever expect us to do. Let's see where we go from here. But that's my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Y'all have a great day. Have a better night.